The news of the day is $1 billion in outflows from Bitcoin's ETF, and that has people expecting significant price drops once again. So let's break this down, keeping it super realistic and grounded. Let's start off with the facts. Bitcoin remains at $90,000, and it's been here now for a couple of days, since kind of the end of the week, and I think it still looks good from this perspective. Okay, I like the fact that Bitcoin has managed to find resistance at the $94,000 price level. Okay, I mean, obviously it would have been nicer if we got a breakout, but it is a lot of progress seeing Bitcoin get resistance and then not getting smacked down as hard as we've seen before. If we kind of take a look at how this has played out for Bitcoin previously, you would hit this resistance level and you're dropping hard pretty quickly. You're falling down to the bottom of the range pretty quickly. Obviously, we've seen a drop so far, but it's just clearly not as violent as kind of what we've been seeing previously. And I don't think there's much room either. I think as far as support goes, Bitcoin has quite a bit of support sitting right here. And this should allow Bitcoin, even if it tries to pull off a deviation, it should allow Bitcoin to have a little bit of support if it does end up kind of seeing this range here at about $87,000. So I think, honestly, from here down by a couple $1,000s, I'm not worried. It's all just kind of a support zone, even if Bitcoin does kind of lose this little diagonal support line. But if this thing starts targeting resistance again, we just, like I said, it's all about looking at this for me within the context of what's happening to traditional finance. And traditional finance, if we take a look at the stock market, is at all-time highs. Okay, so, it's a Sunday, it's the end of the week, and we're going to be doing some weekly analysis here. But, the S&P 500 is clearly in very, very good posture, and it's continuing to rally at all-time highs, which is absolutely incredible. And we're seeing that strength reflected across stocks, right? Like right now, it's going to be the smaller stocks that are moving, which is fine. It's good. Everyone's getting their turn. But again, what does this mean for Bitcoin? Because at the same time, seeing Bitcoin ETF outflows of $1.1 billion in 3 days, that is making people feel like those bigger institutions, those smarter money players are actually not interested in being in Bitcoin. And what do I have to say about this? Well, to start off, there have been 33, somewhere around there, $1 billion in ETF inflows total since launch. Okay, so that's quite a big, and depending on how you classify GBTC, that number goes up to 57 billion. So that's quite a big number, and seeing 1 billion exit the markets just isn't that crazy. Okay, with that in mind, let's first keep that in mind, because everybody and their fucking grandmother, they're just headline junkies. Yeah, everybody's just a junkie for headlines. Don't be that guy, okay? You and I, we don't want to be that guy. We want to stay super realistic and grounded, and this is how we do it, okay? It's not realistic to take some of these approaches that people have been taking and panic with this $1.1 billion figure. It's just not a big deal. What is bad is that these guys are seemingly selling off in line with the rotations that we've seen with traditional finance. And this is the thing, is like here in crypto, we're like, Patrick or whoever, what's his name, Squidward, looking through the window at SpongeBob and Patrick having fun. If you know, you know. If that doesn't make sense to you, then my bad for making a SpongeBob meme. But, we're watching these guys have fun while we're locked inside, and it feels pretty miserable. And it looks like that's kind of what these ETF outflows are, kind of coinciding with. It's the fact that, we've seen incredible strength across traditional finance, and we just haven't seen any of that spill over into Bitcoin yet. And, I think that's kind of reasonably, making a lot of people feel like this market isn't going to be able to hold on. And like I said, we're kind of aware of what that looks like, right? Like if we lose some of these levels here, we get a deviation below support, but then we drop further below 87. We're coming back down to 80K at that point, pretty realistically, I think. And then even much lower than that, somewhere in the 70s, if not lower, to find a new bottom. Yeah. And I think that's kind of what a lot of people expect in this market to happen at this stage. And I'm not closed off to that idea either. If that happens, I have quite a few setups that I'm actually looking at inside of these markets, especially here in crypto. And my BroFi members know all about it. You guys can get inside using the link at the top of the description. And this is essentially this is BroFi. This is where you get direct access to me. And you get the tools and strategies that I use inside of these markets. So, huge part of this is the community. We've got a switched on community. Our guys are smart and they know what they're doing. And we have our weekly lives as well with intimate chart breakdowns. So if any of that stuff sounds interesting to you, it's $100 to join right now. This is the lowest price it'll ever be. You can still definitely fuck your life up after joining this group and lose money. So this isn't going to be a silver bullet. But for those that do pay attention, we've already seen incredible results. These people have had no problems paying off their fee to join. Of course, it's not a big fee to join. And I'm really, really happy with how it's gone so far. So check it out with that top link in the description if it sounds like it might be for you. But here on the Bitcoin chart, if we're able to hold above some of these support levels here, none of that nasty stuff ends up happening down in the 70s. But if we don't, it's just opportunities, okay? Let's not be perpetually afraid of things in this market. Let's instead be a little bit more... I don't know, like even if you have to fake it, be a little bit more, you know, kind of confident about what's going on in this market. You'll find that you don't really have to fake it when you're following the right systems and strategies, and that's what BroFi is all about. But more on that later on. I'm not going to spend too much more time talking about the lows because I don't think it matters until and unless we lose a support level. But as far as talking about the highs, I still want to talk about the highs. And the reason I still want to talk about the highs is because this shit is coiling up under resistance right now. Okay, and coiling up under resistance to me is a sign of a breakout. If traditional finance is looking this strong, I just don't see Bitcoin breaking down again. It could happen, and I could be wrong, and I'd have to eat my words. And what big deal would that be? You know, that wouldn't be a big deal. But I feel that a lot of people have kind of forgotten that Bitcoin can actually go up. They feel that Bitcoin trending down is now a permanent state. And there's no such thing as anything being permanent in these markets, okay? Nothing has ever been permanent in these markets, aside for, perhaps, the notion that these markets do weird things. That's permanent. That's permanently been something we've been aware of. But aside from that, you know, it's just I think we're in a market now where it's completely unsexy. It's completely unfashionable to talk about prices potentially going up. And we're down by quite a bit, down by 36%, and we've consolidated for, you know, a month and a bit. So, you know, I don't know, you tell me, but I think, you know, now we're in a situation where a lot of people could just end up finding out that they got bearish a little bit too late. Yeah, that's kind of how I see this. Let's talk about what else we've had here in the markets, though, and I've got a lot more to cover with you all today. I actually want to... So, obviously, I'm not going to bring up Polymarket, but... there's a lot cooking on Polymarket right now with Iran. That is kind of reflecting the volatility that we've seen across the world, I think, you know, with things like the stock market. But I think it's one of those things that's holding the stock market back. And I said this with the Venezuela video. You know, I basically made the point that, you know, when Trump basically just fucking one-shot, you know, Maduro in Venezuela, you know, and very little collateral damage, just in and out, you know, came what they, you know, just came in and conquered and then left sort of thing. You know, obviously that removes a source of bearish stimuli for the market, right? There was a bearish stimuli for the market that revolved around this whole Venezuela idea, and it's gone. We don't have to worry about that anymore. So, you know, without getting too political, if they're about to do something like that in Iran again, and again, you know, war is bad. I'm not going to give all these gay disclaimers that you guys already know I believe in. But what I do want to focus on is if another source of bearish stimuli gets removed from the market because they're about to just pull off some crazy Delta Force shit again. You know, again, like at this point with markets already kind of creeping high, yes, there's been volatility in response to this stuff, but, you know, markets are still optimistic. I mean, in an optimistic environment, you remove bearish stimuli. I mean, what do you think is going to happen? You know what I'm saying? And that's something that I think is pretty important. Usually I'd bring up Polymarket, but we're not doing that in this video. But, you know, crypto majors, the big ones, they're doing okay. They're doing okay. Sol BTC has essentially fully recovered from its deviation. It's now back inside of this 4-year pennant. I have to say this was quite obvious, and those of us inside of BroFi VIP were tracking this pretty closely because I do have a fairly sizable position in Solana. Seeing it recover above support, you know, is, I mean, look, there's nothing definite yet. I mean, this is such a long-term chart and it's such a small percentage move, but, you know, if we're able to sustain above here for a couple of weeks, you know, get some nice, you know, percentage, you know, headroom above this support level, you know, get at least like 5% above, I think, you know, at that point, it's just hard to say that Solana's in a super, super bad place. Against the dollar, you can definitely cook up, you know, charts that look a little bit concerning. But, I mean, shit, Solana still bounced off its macro support. You know, we knew that this would be support 120. It still bounced off that. You know what I'm saying? So, it's still looking okay. You know, I mean, I actually think it's looking pretty. I think it's looking much more than okay. I think it's looking great. The reason I think it's looking great is because there are so many reasons to hate this market right now. There are so many reasons to hate Solana, to hate crypto, to hate Bitcoin. And all I see is consolidation. Like, you put all these fucking words to the side. Guys, listen. You put these words to the side, you know, these emotions, these thoughts that people have that they're sharing on Twitter or inside of your WhatsApp group or whatever. You put the words to the side and you just look at this fucking chart. This chart is consolidating, okay? It's consolidating and it's been consolidating for 2 years now. A little bit more than 2 years. Well, no, actually around 2 years. It's been consolidating, yeah? And, I mean, you can make the argument that it's going to break down from here, you know, and this consolidation will kind of end. And we're going to see like a $30 Solana. But, hey, good luck, man. You know, to me, I've studied classical technical theory. It's what I subscribe to. It's what I believe in the most. Classical technical theory is just going to say, typically, someone correct me in the comment section, classical technical theory is going to say that we set a high, we fell down, found support, and now we're consolidating at the high. Okay, so last time we got up to this high. Oh my god, I can't. For some reason, I can't press Command Z. I can't undo. And it's not even like the buttons are grayed out here on trade. I don't know why this is happening. But, you know, the last time we got up to this level, it was a sharp drop, and it was pretty quick, and it lasted quite a while. On this occasion here, we get up to the same price level, and we're just fucking sideways for 2 years. Okay, so forgive me for the squiggly lines here. I can't delete them. I could delete them one by one. You know, it's a chart that I think is telling a very real story here that, you know, previously we just couldn't hang at this level, and this time we're hanging out effortlessly. Yeah, inside of, I mean, this is the most bearish environment I've ever seen in crypto in my life. Thank God it's happening at $90,000. I feel so blessed. You know, and I hope you guys do as well. Even if you entered late, feeling blessed isn't going to hurt you. It's going to help you in your life in these markets. You know, that we're having these problems at such astronomically high price levels. So I see consolidation. I see these majors continuing to consolidate. You know, you want to look at another strong coin. Let's pull up Binance coin. I haven't even looked at Binance coin in a long time, but you know, Binance coin here on the day. Look at this chart, man. Like, this shit is just going up. This shit is just going up. You know, Binance against Bitcoin right here, just sitting sideways at highs that it's been sitting at for 4 years. I mean, I get it. You know, a lot of people are going to make bearish arguments out of this. Like, why are we stuck here for 4 years? But on the other side, like, grow the fuck up a little bit, you know, like to an extent. You know what I'm saying? Like, eventually the next year is going to pass as well, whether you're so-called short-term or not about these markets. You know, hopefully, God willing, you're still going to be here in a year, you know, and it would have just been smart for you to think long-term from the beginning. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. But, you know, you guys need to keep in mind we're in crypto. Crypto is the most volatile asset class in human history. Yeah, in history. And, you know, it pays to be patient in this game with that in mind. You know, obviously, there are times you want to dial up your aggression. There are times you want to dial down your aggression. And you need to know how to do that. BroFi is amazing at being able to, you know, kind of spot those environments. Just because we've got so many years in the game collectively doing this. For me, I'm nearly at 9 years now. Makes me feel a little bit old. I'm nearly at 9 years in the game now. But, you know, with that in mind, right here, Binance, I think this shit's fucking popping. I don't know when. Could be 26, could be 2027. I don't know. But, you know, sideways like this, that is incredible. That is incredible. So, you know, I really think that if these gains continue, and by the way, the futures on the S&P 500 are already above 7K. Not that that matters very much, but, you know, the real S&P 500, not far. Not far from 7K either. So we'll see how that goes. The Magnificent Seven, the tech stocks that I like to watch, not all of them are here, but they're looking pretty good. They're looking clearly like they're getting ready to go. when earnings reports come out. Now, Tesla's earning report happens toward the end of the month here, and it's probably not going to be great. I would imagine that's why there's been a pullback from this $500 price level. The reason I don't think it's going to be great, of course, anyone can work this out. Elon's been a little bit too political for his companies to be, operating at their best. And that has resulted in a lot of people boycotting Tesla. So, by the way, that's something I had to consider in my analysis, right? When I was building my position in Tesla, I was like, this boycott situation, the fact that fucking half the world hates Elon, or probably a lot less than that, but a significant chunk hates him. Is this going to be a problem for Tesla in the future? And I was like, actually, no, I'm not worried about this because, you can hate him. You could be you could be the perfect snowflake with Ukraine flags and rainbow flags in your bio. And really, you're still gonna have to, you're still gonna roll over for technology when it makes things cheaper and more accessible, right? Like that. I mean, some people are gonna hold out. Obviously, there's always gonna be those demographics, but most people are just gonna cave when they realize that their car can fucking drive itself, And that's something that I, that makes me feel pretty okay actually with that kind of risk. And so with all of that in mind, with this earning report coming up, if we do see better prices on Tesla, I'll be buying. But, really, it's going to be something I'm going to have to just kind of evaluate, as and when it comes up. And that is exactly the kind of content that we cover absolutely in large amounts of detail inside of our BroFi weekly lives. So we do these every Thursday, 8 p.m. UK time. And I go very, very much in depth on basically all the positions I'm in, and how I plan on changing those positions and any new positions, including short-term trades that I plan on taking. I'm going through all of it on that weekly show. And of course, throughout the rest of the week, we're just giving updates on those things as well. So really, really cool stuff. Like I said, $100 to join if you are interested in getting inside. That is going to be linked at the top of the description. Just load that up right here. Top of the description right here. BroFi VIP. Get yourself inside. What's this ad? Brain technique. That sounds cool. Let's come back to the charts. So that's Tesla right there. We've covered the Magnificent Seven. Prediction markets are looking at U.S. strikes on Mexico now. So, obviously, it's Trump, innit? I mean, we're not expecting, we're not expecting things to be boring. But again, how might that affect the markets? I don't really know. I think, honestly, all I want to read into this is if you've got, a potential conflict in South America, a potential conflict in the Middle East, another potential conflict in Central America now in the form of Mexico. That is a lot to really weigh on these markets. And I don't see weakness with all of that in mind. I don't actually see weakness here. So all I can really say about this is I think the markets are handling this bearish news really well. It might not be bearish. I mean, now that America has Venezuela's oil, that's not bearish anymore. That's really bullish. And I think the markets have kind of shown that. But, that's something that I think is worth looking at. And that is actually going to be pretty much all for this one. So, yeah, obviously we've got the Fed stuff as well. The Fed interest rate, meeting that's coming up. Obviously, almost 100% certainty now. I think most people expecting that there's going to be no change in rates. I don't think that's a bad thing. Whatever, not a big deal. The rates are coming. The rate drops are coming. Trump is getting his new guy in. Whether that's going to be Warsh or Hassett, I don't know. But either way, they will hopefully. I don't know. I don't want to say hopefully, but from Trump's perspective, they will hopefully be, doing exactly as he says. So, hopefully for us, that results in better outcomes. But honestly, I think overall, the kind of closing thoughts here, same shit, ladies and gents. Traditional finance keeps moving. Bitcoin's stuck in a consolidation range. Like I said, the more this makes people feel like it's going to go on forever, the more likely I feel that we're going to get quite a substantial break up. And I'm still definitely, easily expecting 107,000, if not 117. I'm expecting new all-time highs. I'm not expecting this to be a bearish year for Bitcoin. I just flat out do not think that's what we're here for. I don't think that's what we're getting this time. I could be wrong. Yeah, if I'm wrong, it won't be the first time I'm wrong. It won't be the last time I'm wrong. I'll be in this game and I'll be right and I'll be wrong and shit's just going to keep moving, But I've got my reasons. I've explained them, constantly here on this channel and so on. And I feel like I feel confident. What can I say? I mean, more time passes and I just feel more confident. I mean, you know, I'm going through this with you. I don't have a future bull. You know, I don't have a mind reading, you know, bull I can touch and just figure out what's going to happen in the future. I'm just going off the information that you and I both have, and I don't feel ashamed to say at all. I feel very, very confident to say that I think it's going to be a good year for the markets. But hey, we'll see. We'll see. I put my money where my mouth is. I've already positioned for this. So, you know, I get hit if I'm wrong. But, you know, to me, consolidation right here, the sentiment I'm seeing, the fact that TradFi is popping off above 7K right here on the SPX. Eventually, I have to expect some sort of capital rotation into crypto. And I have to expect that if it comes, if and when, I have to expect that it's going to be violent. Yeah, because it's crypto, it's Bitcoin. That's what it is. It is violent. It doesn't give chances for people to enter late and things like that. 9 years in the game. Yeah, I feel like I can just sense it. That's how it feels. But ladies and gents, I hope you've enjoyed this video. A little bit rough. First video back after a little bit. We haven't been posting too much in the new year. But thank you all very much for sticking around. Make sure you do smash up those likes. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out BroFi with the link at the top of the description. Check out Bybit and Blofin linked below. Two of the best exchanges in the game. Check them out if you're not from a restricted region. They are offering some pretty incredible bonuses that you get when you begin trading using either of these two links here. Really, really cool stuff. But with that, ladies and gents, thank you all very much. See you all in the next one. Cheers.